What's going on, everybody? Happy not Friday to you all. Usually we do our broadcasts on Friday, but I missed our broadcast last week, so I thought, hey, let's do two broadcasts this week. So here we are today, Wednesday, April the 5th, in the year of our Lord 2023. We are still stuck smack dab in the middle of winter here in Utah. Even though spring has sprung, the grass has not riz, and that's why there are no birdies around here. So, gosh, my kids are going nuts. It's spring break here this week, and they're just sitting inside watching all the snow, and they're like, Dad, is it ever going to get nice outside? I was like, I sure hope so. I've got with me my beautiful co-hosts, Erica and Justice. Say hello, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Erica is she's joining us, and hopefully she'll be able to finish our broadcast. Unfortunately, she's under a bit of a weather turmoil right now as well, due to a tornado watch. Isn't that right, Erica?
Another one, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My town was flattened a couple of days ago over the weekend. We've been helping people dig out, and
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So if we lose Erica, we'll know why. But hopefully she can make it through this time. Justice, how are you?
I'm good, James. I'm buried in snow.
Yes, you are. I know this too, because when I dropped you off at your house, I was like, how do you even get up to your house?
Yeah,
that's insane.
Now the level of snow that's fallen off the roof has met the edge of the roof off our back porch. It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We live at 7,000 feet, people, in the mountains, so we are in ski country.
Yeah.
It never stops.
Oh, it is. It is ski country for sure. But gosh, when as you guys know from our last episode or previous episodes, we recently filed a lawsuit up in where Justice lives, and when I dropped her off at her house, she's like, you can just drop me off here at the road. And I looked, I was like, where's your house? Up a hill, around the corner, behind about 15 feet of snow. It's crazy. Well, hey, everybody, we have a very special guest with us here. We have Captain Cross has been gracious enough to join us. He's got some interesting stuff going on, but I'll let him introduce himself. Captain, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, James. It's good to be on with Justice and Erica. Let me, before I get started, I don't want to rub it in, but I've got real nice weather here in Arizona, sunny skies.
Yeah, you know what? Just stop right now. Stop it. Just stop it.
So, but let me before I start, let me qualify who I am.
Yes,
please.
I have been flying since 1984. That's 38 years of flying. Never an incident or accident or a violation.
With a prominent airline. We're not going to mention which one, but it is a prominent airline.
Right now, I have been with this airline for 25 years. It's an American carrier.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, it's an American-based carrier, or another word for carrier is airline. So, and for 25 years with this airline, again, not a blemish on my record, always in compliance with the rules, the laws, and perfect record. Now, this mandate came out for a restriction of breathing by everybody, right? So
you might need to, Captain, I apologize. You might need to give some context on what you mean by this mandate. I know where we are today, but let's go back in time. If you want to say maybe some approximate dates and time, that'll be helpful for everybody.
Oh, yes. Early in 20, I believe, or early in 2020.
Yes.
2020, there was a presidential order, executive order, that mandated face coverings for travelers on airlines, on transit, all sorts of areas, buildings, public buildings, federal public buildings, all over the place.
Yes.
But specifically airlines. And the TSA, the CDC came out with recommendations, and then the TSA was tasked with enforcing the face coverings on airlines and in airports.
Yes.
And they issued what is called security directives. That has nothing to do with security, by the way.
Yes.
And it is completely outside their authority to issue such requirements for travelers or crew members. Now,
this is
the
now
security-
just real quick for clarification. You're talking
Yeah.
the TSA, right? It's outside their authority.
Yes, it
Correct.
is. It is the law 49 U.S. Code 114, I believe, states that the TSA may not supersede any other federal agency, i.e., the FAA, in regulating air travel, even under emergency.
Okay. Perfect.
So,
Good to know.
but they did anyway. They did anyway, and they issued these security directives. And in the security directives, they instructed airlines to inform the public that this is a law, and that they have to follow the law. When in reality, the Department of Transportation that oversees the FAA stated unequivocally that not having a face covered in airports or on airplanes is not a violation of the law. It's simply
because
not
there is no law that mandates that.
there is no law. They just issued what they call a regulation, superseding the FAA, and they started calling it a law, and it's not a law. They overstepped their bounds and issued something that is strictly in the hands of the FAA, because this is safety related. Now, the FAA, on their part, did not regulate face covering at all.
They didn't do anything, right? I never heard any kind of directives from the FAA.
Nothing. What they did is they issued recommendations, and recommendations are not regulations. They're not law.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to do it, then do it. If you don't, then you don't have to.
James
let's
frequent flyer. He's on the planes a lot, so
I remember. It's rather a time I would like to forget. I'll be honest with you. It was terrible.
Yeah.
There are still people who still wear those guzzlers, face diapers, as I call them. There are still people
They
that
would
are
make an
scared.
announcement before the flight saying that it was federal law.
They did.
Yes,
they would threaten us all when we were flying.
Yeah, just because Erica brought it up, I will say something. I refused to make that announcement. And one day, towards the end of, I think it was like in October of 21, I had a union member call me, who worked for the union, call me and say, "Hey, Captain, I want to talk to you about something. There are reports that you're not making the announcements, you're not covering your face, and you're out of uniform because on your overnight bag you have the message that says no mandates, no passports, no vax passports, and all that stuff, And at the time, we had about 30% of the pilots who opposed, as a group, opposed the mandates, and I had the message that said 30%ers take back the United States, right? And
wow.
So he called me to tell me that I'm out of uniform and I'm not complying with the requirement, right? So I asked him a few questions about regulations, federal aviation regulations, which he didn't know the answers to. I asked him if he knew what the order stated as far as an exemption for pilots, and he didn't know. So I said, "Why don't you please go educate yourself before you call anybody else, because you really need to know."
Yeah.
And I think that kind of put a mark on my back, because after that moment, it just started snowballing, and I was starting to get more involved and start asking pointed questions from the management people, and I can get into that. But yes, so let me focus on the passenger side of the equation, because it really is important for your viewers to understand what was being done to them. So it was not a law, okay? And the FAA did not regulate face coverings, okay? Let's call it a diaper, whatever we want to call it. I don't know, what is the best way? What's the easiest way to
face coverings is fine. Yeah.
Face coverings. Okay.
Yeah.
So because the FAA did not regulate it, okay, that meant that the FAA did not conduct any studies
Mm-hmm.
to determine how long a flight crew member or a crew member, cabin crew member, can remain conscious in case of a decompression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what are the side effects of these face coverings on pilots and flight attendants? What are the short, medium, and long-term side effects? And that is very critical, because when they do not regulate it, that means that whatever the airline is doing is not in their operating specifications. There's a document called the operating specification for an airline. In that document, the FAA specifies exactly what the airline can and cannot do.
Got it.
Okay.
Because just so I'm clear, and I believe that everybody else is clear, the airlines are granted their charters for operation within the United States based on the guidelines and regulations set forth by the Federal Aviation Administration. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
And I will talk. I'll touch up on that in a little bit once I get back to the pilot side of the equation.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, you bet.
So now they decided to force people to. Oh, by the way, so the face coverings that everybody just put on involves risks.
Yes.
There's no question about it.
Yes.
In case of an emergency, in case of a decompression, you really have very few seconds to react and put your oxygen mask on. That is the mask that comes from the
one that drops from the ceiling. Yes.
It's called the PSU, Personal Service Units, right above your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There has been no study, of course, like I said, by the FAA that demonstrates how long it takes a person to remove that face covering and place the oxygen mask on their face, okay, to continue breathing. All right. So for the airlines to operate within the law, i.e. within the regulations, they would have to, the FAA would have to conduct those studies, and that they would have to adjust something called the time of usefulness or a time of useful consciousness for crew members. Now, remember, flight attendants are in the cabin for your safety. They're not there to hand you your drinks and what have you, right? So in case of a decompression, there's going to be a lot of people that just don't know how to put that mask on, and they need the flight attendants to help them. If the flight attendants are not there to help them because their time of useful consciousness has been reduced by covering their breathing apparatus, okay, then they have exposed the people to an added risk, additional risk that has not been calculated, but has not been calculated by the regulators, i.e. the FAA. Okay, so the airlines went out on a limb. They took the risk and passed it on to the passengers. Okay, so here's the trick with what happened there, or with the remedy for something like this is problematic, because the law does not provide for a private right of action under federal aviation regulations. And if you're familiar with that, it means that if an airline violates the law, you can't sue the airline directly. You have to go to the FAA, and the FAA will have to.
The FAA would have to initiate that suit. Yeah,
absolutely. So you don't have a private right of action. That's what that means. So a passenger cannot sue the airline because of what they did. You just don't have private right of action. However, you can, I think, there can be a very good class action suit against the airlines, because what they did is they forced you to check a box when you bought your airline ticket. And when you check that box, they did not disclose the added risk that they are undertaking. They're passing that risk on to you.
Yes.
So they did not disclose that to you. So that nullifies that contract of carriage.
Yeah.
Right? That
it does.
Contract of carriage.
I'm very familiar with that.
Okay. And then they are violating the FTC rules. They're not advertising the added risk.
Yeah. Just so everybody's clear,
Yeah.
Sorry, Captain, not to introduce.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah, I didn't want to cut you off here, but just so everyone's clear, what the captain's referring to is, again, the muzzles, the face coverings, the face diapers, whatever you want to call them. They were an approved medical device under the Emergency Use Authorization Act, 20. I think it's like 52 or 32 USC 360 triple B. I can't remember the exact federal law that it falls under. Yeah, let's get rid of that guy. I don't know who that is. Sorry. And you're on mute, Justice. So under that provision, any approved device under an emergency medical authorization, you must be given two things. You must be given, number one, informed consent is the first thing. So you must be said, hey, this device has been approved. Here's what it's supposed to do. And these are the known risks. You're supposed to be given that. That's the first. The second thing is you also have a statutory right. You know where I feel on statutes, but you also have a statutory right to refuse. So what Captain Cross is referring to is the airlines did not give any passenger a right to refuse. And I know this firsthand because, as Justice alluded to, I do travel frequently with another major United States-based airline. And I have no shame in saying this, I'm a migraine sufferer and have been since I was 11. Restriction of my oxygen is a known migraine trigger. I would get debilitating migraines when I would travel on airlines, when I had to muzzle my face. So I sought to seek a medical exemption, and I had some stupid doctor, don't know who it was, don't care, who cut me off mid-sentence and said, I'm just going to tell you right now, there's no proof whatsoever that a muzzle causes migraines. As I'm like, oh, really? So you know my condition better than I know myself. That's what you're telling me here? So that's what Captain's referring to. And he's right. They pushed it all right there. But anyway, go back to what you were saying, Captain. Apologize.
No worries. Yes. So even if the risk is 0.001, they should have disclosed that. Okay.
Yes.
And not only that, but the fact that it's not part of their operating specifications that is approved by the FAA. They're operating outside the parameters of their certification. So they are in violation of that to begin with. Okay. There's a regulation that the airlines operate under is called 14 CFR 121.417, paragraph 121.417. And that paragraph dictates to the airlines specific training for crew members if the crew members are operating above flight level 250 or 25,000 feet. And that involves training the crew members on oxygenation, emergency procedures, decompression, a whole host of training that the crew members have to receive. So I never received that training. None of the crew members who I know received that training. All they told them is, "Oh, you just take the face covering off and put on your oxygen." Well, as silly as that as easy as that may sound, it can be very confusing in a decompression situation, and you may not be able to remove that completely, and then end up putting the oxygen on and not receiving enough oxygen, and you're either going to pass out or you're going to have brain damage, one of the two, and you're not going to be able to help the crew members.
Exactly.
Now there would have been a solution that they could have implemented, the airlines. They could have chosen lower cruise altitudes. So instead of going to 39,000 feet, they could have chosen to cruise at 25,000 feet, which makes the cabin closer to the ground, the cabin pressure, that is, right? Because if you're at 39,000 feet, your cabin pressure is about 8,000 feet. So it puts you as if you're at 8,000 feet. But if you go down to 25,000 feet, your cabin pressure is at about 3,000 feet. And the time it takes to descend to, say, 10,000 feet is a lot less. And then you can breathe normally. Okay. Yeah. So the risk of decompression is minimized if they chose lower cruising altitudes. But of course, that would cost them a lot more fuel, because the higher you go, the less fuel you burn. Yes. So from an economic standpoint, the airlines favored profits over the safety of the passengers.
Hold on a second. Are you telling me that airlines promoted profits over the safety of their passengers? No, that doesn't happen. Captain, what are you talking about?
Not in our world. I don't know what world I'm talking about.
Hostels don't
Absolutely
do it
not.
either.
I'm in a different timeline here, but that's exactly what happened. Okay, so I think the remedy for this is, if anybody's out there and interested in pursuing this, is the contract side of it.
Yeah.
What they sold is an illegal product, and did not disclose the risks in violation of the FTC rules and regulations. So
it's
I
it's
think
the
that
cause
I
of
think that
action.
has,
Yeah, sorry. The cause of action would be fraud by non-disclosure.
yes, yeah.
So
I don't know if anybody has pursued that path, but
honestly, I think
that's
we're all fighting so many battles. I got to be honest. Justice knows. I mean, we're fighting these battles here on the home front, just trying to keep our property. We're trying to keep sticky fingers away from the things that we've worked our blood, sweat, and tears to get. So I was with you.
I understand.
I wanted to. I mean, here from where I was, I told you, and I still travel. I've flown over 1 million miles as a passenger. So I do fly a lot, and I wanted to take on the fight, but my concern was at the time, if I take on this fight, these people are going to put me on a no-fly list. If I can't fly, I don't have a job.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's not something
they know
I could have
that.
done. And they know that. See, and here's the thing about that whole no-fly list. Is anyone ever given their day in court or their opportunity to defend themselves for that? Or they just, oh, your name ends up on the list, and how it got there, nobody knows, and how you get it off is anybody's guess.
That's right. So which is a good segue there into the Federal Aviation Act of 1958. All right. In that act, in section 104, it states that it affirms, okay? It doesn't give us the right. It affirms that we as United States citizens have the right. It's a right to traverse the navigable airspace of the United States of America.
Right.
Awesome.
Okay. We have a right. The airlines are giving a privilege.
A vehicle.
That's right. They are given a privilege, but we have a right. So if you consider that equation, would they be trampling our rights to traverse the navigable airspace of the United States of America?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think they are.
Absolutely.
That's a right. That's your right. They have a privilege, and they have to live by the rules and regulations. Yeah. So,
well, it's and just so everyone's clear, it's because these airlines, they do not exist without the laws and regulations that create them. Right?
That's correct.
Captain Cross, myself, Erica, and Justice, we weren't created by the airlines. So the creation can never be greater than the creator. That's what we've been saying here this whole time. So what that federal law you're talking about is just reaffirms, hey, you have a right to travel, and now that air travel is prominent, you have a right to travel in the navigable airways.
Absolutely. And I, like 720,000 of us, choose to operate aircraft, to fly. That's how I like to traverse the navigable airspace. Now, to do that, I would have to be, I would have to have the skills, okay, and a medical clearance called a medical certificate, right? And this is where my fight is all about.
Yeah, I was curious about that.
The medical certificate, because it's on the books. It is law that only the pilot can make health decisions that affect the outcome of a medical clearance.
Okay.
The way I've been describing this to pilots, and many pilots just don't understand this, is we the people hold the power. We gave the power to Congress to pass the law. They passed the Federal Aviation Act of 1958 that created the FAA, and the FAA gave us, or regulated the aviation industry and allowed me to exercise my right by meeting the skills and the medical standards that they have set. This is for the protection of everybody, the people I carry, and the people on the ground.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right?
I was just going to say that the whole key to that is safety.
Safety,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All
Safety.
those regulations that you had to go through before you could be a pilot is all for safety. And
Safety.
that's the interesting part of it all.
That's right. Safety is written 43 times in the Federal Aviation Act of 1958. 43 times. And untold times in the Federal Aviation regulations and in my company's manuals. I mean, if I search safety in the manual, I can come up with a very good number, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about safety. So because of that, I refused to cover my face and restrict my breathing. And so which is going to take me to what happened to me. I'll briefly tell the story. So Spokane International Airport, I'm going through the security. I'm on duty. I'm in uniform. My passengers were going through the security just as I was going through security, and I did not cover my face. TSA says, well, you need to cover your face. And I said, no, I don't, because the regulations state that I make those decisions. Plus there's an exemption in the security directive. And I just so happen to have that with me. And it's in paragraph F3. It's probably in the documents that you read. But it says, I'll read it real quick here. It is an exemption. An exemption means an exemption. Means whatever it is doesn't apply to the individual. And the exemption, of course, if you remember, children under 2 were exempt. They didn't have to cover their face. And people with disabilities didn't have to cover their face. And then it said, people for whom wearing a mask would create a risk to workplace health, safety, or job duties as determined by the relevant workplace safety guidelines or federal regulations. So they issued 2 of these what's called security directives. One for the aircraft operator and one for the airport operator. So the question is, okay, the one issued for the airport operator, who does that paragraph apply to?
Exactly.
Who has a safety, a job that is centered around safety? Who has to comply with federal regulations, right? Obviously, it is the pilots, because the health of the pilot does not begin at the flight deck door like my company, my airline insists that my health basically begins at the flight deck door. And it just doesn't, right? It's just ridiculous for them to state that. Even the judges in my cases, they're parroting the same thing. And I'm like, no way.
You're missing it.
You're missing it. The pilot's health is a 24/7 affair. You can't read it that way. That's not what the intent of Congress. That's not what the intent of Congress was, right? So anyway, so the TSA individual, they call them TSOs, Transportation Security Officer, called the police. The police, 3 of them were on me like that. Like 3 seconds they were there.
Oh, I bet. They were reaching for those fights.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they were about 12 inches from my face. This one officer telling me, put the dang mask on. Oops, said it. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Put the dang thing on, right? So I'm like, okay. I said, that's my moment, because God is calling on me.
Good.
This is the fight. And what really the call really came to me when one of my coworkers, who was once one of my co-pilots, died from a shot.
That's the word you can't say.
died from the treatment.
Yes.
There you go.
that died from the treatment that was imposed on us by the company
Yeah.
within 17 days.
Wow.
Within 24 days, he was having symptoms. 3 days, he was in severe neurologic reaction. Day 5, they placed him in induced coma. Day 17, he was gone.
Ugh,
That's
so
heartbreaking.
sad.
And left behind his widow and two daughters. Now, another one of my coworkers landed in Dallas. 6 minutes later, at the gate, he died.
Mm.
I heard about
Revived
that
him.
one.
He coded 3 times. They revived him, and now he walks around with a defibrillator. He can't fly anymore. Okay. Now both of them took the same treatment,
Mm-hmm.
and both of them were forced to take it because our director of flight threatened them with losing their job if they did not do it. Flat out. The paragraph, I have the paragraph. I know I didn't give it to you.
That's
but
okay.
It's flat out. Says if you don't do it, you will lose your job. That was not true because there were other avenues that they could have chosen, like
Mm-hmm.
an exemption.
Yep.
But this man did not mention that. He flat out said, you'll take it or you're going to lose your job. Well,
Yeah.
one died and one lost his medical forever. Okay. He's alive. He goes around talking about it. But hey, that didn't cause it, because
No.
we're telling you it didn't cause it. You don't know your body, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So which I know I just kind of strayed a little bit from my quick story there.
No, it's good.
We're getting
I-
assaulted by the police.
I promise I'll try and keep it short. But
You're good.
So the police officers were trying to force me to cover my face. I said, no way. I said, this is my moment. Whatever happens. I'm not going back.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, either I walk to my airplane and take my passengers who are just passing me, and they could see the police officers detaining me. Basically, they detain me, unlawful detention for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Or I leave the airport. Well,
Mhm.
guess what? The agent of the airline connected with the police officers, and because the airline wanted an on-time departure, the police officer said, "Okay, you can go," without covering your face.
Of course. A lot of money in that.
Right? There's a lot of money in that departure. Sure.
Yeah.
So I arrive
If they had
sorry.
sent you out the door of the airport, now they
Yeah.
have to cancel that flight, find a new pilot, which would, you can probably tell this better than I can, but I just know in my experience as a passenger, it's like whenever there's crew issues, it's like a ripple effect that goes on
Oh,
down,
absolutely.
and it affects, it's not just that one plane or
No,
that
it's an
flight
all
number.
day.
It's the
an
entire
all-
day. Yes.
It's an all day thing until they regroup overnight. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And then
So
they have
go
to
ahead.
pay off disgruntled customers and things like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, figured financially is more acceptable for the airline to let me go, so they did. I arrived at my destination, and the company removed me from duty. And I have been off duty since then. That was in December 6th, 2021.
Something about
They-
that number 6.
Something about that. Now, here's the interesting thing. They set up January 6th, 2022 as a hearing to investigate what happened at the airport. Okay.
So interesting.
Now, mind you, the event did not take place on the airline's property, so they really have nothing to do with it. But because the police called the airline, okay, so now in one of my arguments, the airline acted under the color of law.
Yes, they did.
So I'm trying to prove a 1983 claim, and I know, James, you'll know that. You'll know what that is. But the airline acted under the color of law. And these judges use fancy fancy cases. They cite all kinds of cases to prove you wrong, when the fact of the matter is the police called them and they acted on a tip from the police. Simple as that, right?
Yep.
So,
well, you have to. The way you rein in these judges, which I think you're doing, because I read your appellate brief too. The way you rein in these judicial activists is what they are. The issue you run into at these, and it's not just at the federal courts, it's also at state courts. You're going to have judicial activists, these judges who want to, I have a platform, I can push my agenda.
Okay.
The rule of law and the truth or the facts as explained, that be damned. That doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, it doesn't matter.
I'm here to push my agenda. But you're on the right track, because is Arizona, are you in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals?
Yes.
Okay.
I know.
I don't think you're going to get it. Yeah, I don't think it's going to get much better there. But I believe your case is an interesting one that, should you not get the ruling you're looking for at the appellate level, you absolutely should file a petition for a writ of certiorari with the Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
Because at some point, you're going to get an adult in the room that goes, oh, wait a minute. He's moving under this federal law. This is what it says. This is not what happened. What else is there?
Yes, that's correct. I agree with you. And I think the secret of success is persistence. You have to be persistent, and you got to keep pushing. And if I give up today, they win.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they want you to do.
Yes.
They want you to give up, right?
Yeah.
So no matter how small the fight is, you have to keep pushing.
Yeah.
For what is right. And eventually you will prevail.
And I want to throw a little statistic out there for everybody, just so those of you who are listening. At the federal level, and these numbers are generic, but at the federal level, somewhere around 60 to 70% of the cases that are appealed from the federal courts to the appellate courts, 60 to 70% of them are pro se litigants. So like the Captain Cross, like Justice and myself that have cases in those courts. What's interesting is that of those 60 to 70% cases, almost 30% of them are reversed and remanded. 30%.
Wow, that's good.
Do you guys know what the percentage is on cases that are appealed by an attorney that get reversed and remanded? You guys know?
Not a clue.
Under 3%.
Wow.
So
and I think, I'm sorry, James. And I think
go ahead.
I think I know the reason. The reason is because we as pro se are not constrained by the bar.
Correct.
We're not constrained by a certain set of rules that they've been that we're trained by, and we think outside the box.
Yeah.
And we're not golfing with the judge on Saturday and don't want to piss him off throughout the week.
That's true.
Too.
We're not.
That is critical.
It's like Randy Kelton says, I'm not in there dangling by my bar card.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not worried that the judge is going to pull my bar card, because the judge can do that to a lawyer, a bar sanctioned member. You can't do that to one of us as a pro se litigant. So
right. Okay. Very good. So let me get back to something very, very important. So January 6th, which is very, very important. It's very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind everybody else.
Yeah.
It's important to me because on that day, I was put through a hearing, okay, to investigate what happened at the airport.
Okay.
So I wanted to postpone it, to reschedule it, but they refused to reschedule it. Now, a reschedule is, I'm entitled to a reschedule under the collective bargaining agreement of the union. And the union is, if I don't know if I can say the word, is crap.
No, you can go ahead and say that.
It's just a bunch of communists that take your rights away and
all your money and your union dues. Yep.
Manipulate your rights as they please.
Yep.
Okay. And you have no rights under union leadership, because they got you in a box. Now you go to work, and we tell you what we're going to fight for you, when we're going to fight for you, and when we are not. So It's really that simple. Anyway, so it was an important day because on that day, I was able to present my case.
Mm-hmm.
And not only present my case, but extract certain positions from the management, from
good.
the airlines. Okay. One of those things that I focused on, they kept insisting on forcing me to state that I violated company policy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never say that. I even told them I would never say that. Even if I did violate the policy, I would never say it on the record. Why would I say it on the record?
Exactly.
What do you think? I'm but I kept saying that I was in compliance with the federal aviation regulations and the order, the security directives. And that drove them nuts. That just drove them nuts. Okay. I invoked my authority over my medical certificate, and that drove them nuts. And I tried to contract with them. I said, look, I will do anything the airline wants me to do.
Mm-hmm.
Show me that you have authority over my medical certificate, and I'll do anything you want me to do.
Good.
But when you do, then you have to sign a document stating that I am fit for duty.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a legal document. As a matter of fact, under 18 U.S. Code 1001, if you falsify that statement, any statement, you're subject to $250,000 fines and 5 years in jail, or both. Okay?
Yep.
So every time I take a flight out, I am making that statement. I am making a statement to the agency, that is the FAA.
Yep.
So I
That
said,
you're fit for
hey,
duty. Yes.
absolutely. And that the release of the aircraft, the number of gallons I'm carrying, the doesn't exceed a certain amount of weight, the weight and balance of the aircraft, the routing, the weather, everything. I'm stating that I agree to all that. So it's a contract with the government.
Yeah.
It's a contract with the people. Remember that. So as I described earlier, the people, through Congress, through the Federal Aviation Act, through FAA, I am contracting with the people to carry them safely from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So I said, if you prove to me that you have authority, I'll do it, but you have to sign these documents.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, no can do. We can't do that. Right? So it's,
of course,
it's on the record. It's on the transcript.
That's
okay.
great.
So I say offer made, offer rejected. We're done here. I'm done. What am I doing here? Right? But it continued. The threats that I would lose my job continued. They just did not stop. And I asked, they brought a guy, a hearing like that usually lasted about 10, 15 minutes with other pilots because the union and the company agreed that the union would not oppose the company's policy, which is forcing everybody, right?
Yeah.
To cover they did not oppose it. And any pilot who was sent in, he was coerced by the union to just say, oh yeah, I won't do it again, and just walk out of there with a letter in their file saying, go back to work and cover your face.
Yeah.
Slave, you pilot.
Yes.
You work for us.
Yeah.
You're a slave. You have no rights, right? So I said, no way that will happen to me. No
Good.
way. Absolutely no way. He even told me, this captain who came from Chicago, told me, we are trying to bring people back on the airplane. How else are we going to bring people back on the airplane if the gate agents don't cover their face? If the flight attendants don't cover your face? You're a leader. You are in leadership position. So we want you to cover your face so that everybody else covers their face. And I said, so wait a minute. So you want me to violate my medical certificate just so you sell tickets?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good
Yep.
one.
That's exactly what it is.
And basically, that's what he told me in the hearing. I said he made the statement, you have an obligation towards the corporation. I said, no, you're wrong. I said, the only obligation I have is towards my passengers. I have no obligation towards the airline at all when it comes to safety.
Right.
Only my passengers.
Right.
And well, that lasted an hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
An hour and 20 minutes. In the end of the day, they still put a letter in my file. And here's the kicker. At the end, I said, you know what? I agree that I will comply with the company policy, the face covering policy, and the order. And the order. Well, the order has the exemption, but he never read the order. He never read the order, which was in our manuals.
Yeah.
It was given to us, but nobody read the order.
Yeah.
Nobody. So
Wow.
they're just going to work. I mean, let's face it, pilots make good money. Okay. We're one of the top earners in the country.
Yeah.
We're the top earners in the company.
Yeah.
But we are so powerful that we move the nation. We move the country. We're only about, okay, if you do the math, you have 720,000 pilots, according to the FAA statistics, roughly the end of 2022. Maybe about 100,000 actually work for a carrier that transport people. The rest are general aviation and corporate and, you know, what have you for fun, right?
Sure.
So that's a very, very low percentage of the population.
Yeah.
What, 0.002, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we move the country.
You do.
We move the country. As a matter of fact, under 49 U.S. Code 42112, it states that we, the pilots, provide transportation. We provide transportation. What do the airlines provide?
All they provide is a plane.
The vehicle.
That's it. That's it. We provide the transportation. We are so powerful, and the pilots are just, can I say this word? I'm sorry, but I have to say it. They're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
They're stupid. They allow a union to railroad them into a position that is so weak, and they give up their right to their medical certificate. And that's what they did, because they're so afraid of losing their job.
Well, the whole country did.
The whole country did, but they did not realize their power, Justice.
Right. Exactly.
0.002, and we move the country.
Right.
Without us, the economy pretty much comes to a halt.
Well,
so do truck drivers, but we do really move the country.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's so many goods. I mean, people don't know this, and maybe you can enlighten people on a given commercial flight. You know, not only do you have all of the passengers that have paid for a seat. You know, what is that? Some depends on if it's an Airbus 320. What about 315, 320 passengers, maybe more?
Oh no,
So-
no, 320s carry anywhere from 124 to 200 people.
Okay, yeah.
It's
So
three different varieties. Yeah.
yeah, so you've got, not only do you have the living passengers, you also have, you know, also all of their luggage, but that's not the only stuff that these airlines are carrying. They also have compartments specifically for commercial goods.
That's right.
It would shock you to know how many times most of those commercial airlines are transporting a dead body, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
You know, they
do
it
we
all the time.
transport a lot of things. We transport a lot of things.
yeah.
And which is another good segue into the this government contract that they claim, that the airlines claim that we are government contractors, therefore you must accept the medical treatment. Right? They claim that's the case. Well, excuse me, but that's your contract. It's not my contract.
Yeah. That's your contract with the carrier, not with me, the pilot. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Plus, you can't have a contract that violates federal regulation.
Mm-hmm. Or
And
any
the
of your
federal-
constitutionally secured rights.
That's right.
Can
Exactly.
I interrupt real quick?
Sure.
So, because the viewers on this channel are learning how to represent themselves pro se, would you mind telling them what action items you actually took and where you are now? Because I know you've gone through a case already and now you're starting a new one. So would you mind sharing with them? Because these are legal-minded people. They'll understand.
Okay. Okay, very
Yeah,
good.
that's
I know-
what we
I
do
know.
here is we teach people about, your constitutionally secured rights, causes of action, if your rights are violated, like you mentioned, doing something under the color of law, but pretending that it's something that they have lawful
Okay.
authority to do so remedies for that. So yeah, tell us where, so you had that meeting. Tell us, when did you get involved in litigation, and how did that go in the federal court, and where are you now?
Okay, very good. I'm passionate about the flying business, so
I get it. It's totally fine.
We love you. You're such a nice guy.
So thank you. So following that hearing, there was another. I should have never done it, but I did it anyway. I followed the union's path, and I said, okay, I'm going to grieve it, and then I'm going to appeal it.
Mhm.
And somewhere along the line, somehow I received an email that I was not supposed to receive, I think, that the managers were discussing an appointment with a doctor. And that was like, oh, wait a minute. They're going to pull the ultimate weapon against me.
Okay.
And they did. And that was a fitness for duty examination.
Oh,
They demanded a fitness for duty examination. And when I realized that that's what they were going to do, I immediately filed a lawsuit, pro se.
Good.
Okay.
And I had exposure to filing a lawsuit back in 2001, and I ended up arriving at a settlement with the same company,
Mhm.
in 2005. And that agreement, or that settlement contract agreement, was sitting in a Tupperware here in my house for all these years, 19 years. And I thought, oh, this is just worthless piece of paper.
Mhm.
And basically the agreement, and I'll get back to that. I'll tell you why I'm telling you this. This agreement was an insurance policy for me, so the company would not repeat what they had done back in 2001, right?
Yeah.
So it was sitting in a box, idle, for all these years. Now that's a contract. That's a contract between me and the company, directly signed under the auspices of the court.
Mhm.
So I had some background knowledge of filing pro se. And when I learned that the company was planning on using the ultimate weapon, which is the fitness for duty, I decided to file my lawsuit. And I quickly put it together. So you have to have claims. So
Yep.
I claimed in my complaint that the company was violating my medical certificate,
Mhm.
was violating the aviation rules and regulations, created a hostile work environment.
Because they did.
They did, but what you will find out is that it's really a narrow definition that they use, which
Mhm.
falls under the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission.
Yes.
So it has to be like national origin,
Yep.
sex, or religion, whatever, right? And then the fourth claim that I had was acting under the color of law.
Mhm.
My main objective has been and always is to protect the medical certificate of the pilot, to
Mhm.
make sure that nobody can tell the pilot what to eat, what to drink, how to breathe, how many hours to sleep, and how to get ready for the flight. Because
Mhm.
Congress meant for it to be that way. That's one. Two, it's common sense. Three, they cannot assume the responsibility that a pilot assumes. Therefore, they don't assume the responsibility and the risk, then they can't dictate anything. So to the pilot. So
Mhm.
I filed my lawsuit real quick, and I had to amend it a few times because I quickly realized that the best approach was under contract law.
Yes.
That was the cleanest approach. It's black and white. It's
Mhm.
spelled out. There's no question asked, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I've been
So-
saying this whole time.
Yeah, and so my four claims transformed to there's still four, but I kind of tweaked them a little bit in my third amendment, And my third amended complaint is the copy that I gave you, James. And in
I
it,
can pull it up if you want to show anything. I have it here, so just let me know.
I can talk about it. It's kind of hard to read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. But let me say my first claim was polished up, and I focused on the contract side of it. And I claimed that when I got hired by the airline, I had an employment contract. Okay. And in my employment contract, I agreed to be responsible to maintain a medical certificate. Okay. So responsible means something, right? And maintain, so responsible to maintain means a lot of things.
Yes, it does.
And it means one thing, and that is, it is me and only me who makes health decisions to maintain that medical certificate. All right. So that's one. That's number one. Number two was the fact that the airline violated aviation rules and regulations, came up with policies that are just haphazard.
Not only that, those policies are arbitrary and capricious, and that they don't specifically specify what their intent are and what those policy considerations were based on.
And they don't have anything, because in preparation for my hearing, I asked them in my defense, I said, give me the documents that back your reasoning for these policies. Yeah. Give me what documentation, what studies have you done to support what you want me to do? Nothing. And this guy from Chicago, he's another captain. He said, there's nothing. It's on the record. He said, we don't have anything. So they have nothing. They have done nothing to support their policies. So it is haphazard, and it's hazardous. So real quick, Captain.
I just want to reiterate here. Most of you know I've talked about this before. There was a lawsuit that was in the Middle District of Florida that was filed that ultimately ended the federal mandate. What was fascinating about this lawsuit is the individuals who put it together. They found all of the research that showed why the medical treatment of covering your face. There it is right there. Yep. Why the medical treatment covering your face did not work and does not work. And they could not find one that showed that they did, or they had any effect. So
that's correct. So
good on you.
All they cared about is bringing people back on airplanes and selling tickets. That's all they cared about.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay, so that was the second claim. And the problem with that claim, as I mentioned earlier, is the private right of action under federal aviation law, right?
Yeah.
I have cited a case. It's Laughlin versus Riddle Aviation, in which the Fifth Circuit Court found private right of action under aviation law.
Interesting.
And I'm using that to support my position, my argument that one thing that this court in Phoenix determined, that it is unequivocal. This is the one thing that the lower courts will not do, is go off on their own and make a decision that is different than the appellate court.
Yeah.
They're told, don't do it, right? So we're the boss. We told you how it is, just stick with it.
Yep.
So in one of my motions, I invited the court here in Phoenix to have the guts to think outside the box. That's what I told them. I said, I'm extending an invitation to the court to deviate from the Ninth Circuit. No, it's unequivocal.
Here's
that's his word.
Here's the thing, Mr. Judge. There is this pesky clause in the federal Constitution called the full faith and credit clause, that if one citizen enjoys a right in one state, that a citizen in another state shall have full and equal access to that right. So if citizens within the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals have a private right of action under the federal aviation laws, then citizens within the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals do as well. And if you don't like that, then you have a problem, because one, you're in violation of your oath to the Constitution, and two, the Constitution reigns supreme. Period.
James, you'll have to shoot that to me.
Yeah, it's here, go keep talking and I'll find it and I'll put it up on.
Okay. So that was my second claim, and I do have a pretty good story for the Ninth Circuit to reconsider that unequivocal position that they have taken, and there's nothing unequivocal in law.
Okay.
Because the only thing that's unequivocal is our rights. Is our rights under God. This is it.
Yeah.
Everything else is negotiable.
Yep.
But you can't negotiate our rights.
Right.
I found that clause, by the way.
Okay.
This is Article. Let's see. Is that 5? No.
It's 4.
That's 4.
Article 4.
I know. I'm so bad.
Okay.
Article 4, Section 1.
Okay. I got it.
Excuse me. Section 2. The citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states.
Okay. Very good.
That's exactly what that means.
I wrote it down. I'll
So yeah, if I were you in your appellate briefs or whatever you're filing, he's like, hey, this is what is known as the full faith and credit clause.
Okay.
Right here, full faith and
Good.
credit shall be given.
Trust
and
me,
additionally to this,
I got it.
well, and in addition to this, you can also argue under the 14th Amendment, 10, 11, 12, 13, 4. Here it is right here. Under the 14th Amendment, there's also equal protections that are here, because you're going to hear idiots, and yes, they are idiots, are going to make the argument that the first 10 amendments don't apply to the states. Yes, they do. But in case you were wondering, the 14th Amendment brings that back up. So,
Okay. Very good. I have to say that I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing.
isn't it fun?
It's a lot of fun. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's stressful, and I just have to go for hikes or whatever. But sometimes I'm like, I can't do anything. It's just my brain is not functioning properly. But I get.
And
back
what would that
to
be
it
like
and-
going for a hike right now, right, Justice? What would that be like?
I don't know. I didn't mean to say that, but
Come on. You're rubbing it. It's like 80 degrees outside where you are right now, isn't it?
No, it's actually much cooler than that today.
Okay. All right.
So my neighborhood, they claimed somebody lost their life on our hiking trails because of an avalanche in my neighborhood. That's how much
Ooh.
snow there is. Yeah.
Wow.
And we have tiny little hills. They're not giant mountains, but it's all around ski resorts, so they're mountainous. But that was a sad thing to read the other day. But anyway, that's how much snow we had. I've been here for 18 years.
I suppose you could, without much snow.
Yeah.
There's a lot, yeah. Anyway,
So that
okay,
was your
so
second claim. Your third claim?
That was the second claim. And the third claim is the hostile work environment.
Okay.
And that is narrow because, again, they want to go by what the EEOC's definition of a hostile work environment is.
National origin, race, sex.
Yeah.
so
And
that
religion.
the police, that situation, does that include that?
Well, that is what happened in Spokane.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I
Different.
can't say implicate the airline with that.
Yes, because
Yeah,
there was a hostile incident. It doesn't have to do. Got it. Okay.
Right,
you actually
right.
have a separate cause of action for just that instance there.
Yeah.
You got the
I
unlawful detainment and you have false imprisonment.
I do, and I have a lawsuit against
Good.
Spokane Police and the airport.
Good.
I'm having to transfer the case now to Washington because I could not get personal jurisdiction over the officers here in where I'm at. So I've filed a motion to transfer the case to Washington, which is fine.
Yeah.
I'll
To the
just do it
federal
online.
federal court in Washington, correct?
Eastern District in Washington. So
Yeah, and not to get off on a tangent here, but there is a lawsuit that I found. A young man was going through TSA before all of this garbage,
Mhm.
and he wrote on his chest the verbiage of the Fourth Amendment that
right.
no person shall be subject to an unlawful search and seizure without a warrant. And
Right.
So sure enough, they singled him out for additional security screening. So he took off his shoes, he took off his belt, and he took off his shirt as well, which is where it was written. They took issue with that, arrested him, charged him. he was ultimately found. They dismissed the case, and they had a fat settlement because of it. So there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not letting up on that. And by
Good.
the way, one of my you're gonna like this. Now, airports received a lot of money
Yes, they do.
to enforce the people, enforce the covering. You know.
Oh, at
of
the time.
case.
Okay.
At the time, yeah, in the millions of dollars.
They were bribed.
Okay? They were bribed.
Yeah.
Spokane received $23,012,421.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the airport gets that. The concession stands get that.
Who pays them?
The federal government.
Federal government.
Yeah,
that's the CARES Act. Remember?
They're just printing the money.
They're just printing money. But what they did is they signed an agreement that they will enforce the face covering. And the threat is that if they did not do that, then the funding would cease, would stop. So they did everything under contract. I'm telling you, everything was done by contract law. So
Yeah.
but getting back to my fourth, I'm sorry, James, you were going to say.
Yeah, you're fine. I was going to say, so your third claim was the narrow definition for the hostile work environment, and then your fourth claim was.
I am taking care of that with another lawsuit, and I'll talk about that here briefly. But the fourth one is the airline acting under color of law, a 1983 claim. Okay. The thing that these judges do is you file a case, and then they take it apart.
Yep.
They take it apart, and then they say, well, you have this. This doesn't apply here, because for this to apply, then they pull so many case law from all over the place, and they say, well, this doesn't apply here. They don't look at the big picture, at the story. And they say, to conclude that, yes, a violation of that code happened. So in my case, for example, they claimed that, just because the police called them and they acted on a police tip, that was an internal company policy that had nothing to do with the police. But if the police didn't call them, that would have never happened, right? But they don't.
Yeah.
They don't consider that. They just took it apart. They took it apart and made the decision that that's an internal policy or internal disciplinary action. So it has nothing to do with police.
Yeah, it does.
Because you violated a company policy. But wait a minute. The company policy doesn't apply at the TSA.
Yeah.
And they just blow it off. They just don't even mention it. Don't bring it up. The exemption, I stated that the language in so many, you see that in the never mentioned.
Yep.
Never.
These federal judges are notorious for blowing off issues that are the heart of the issue.
Absolutely.
And they go to the issues that are really the small piece of what you're actually arguing.
Yes.
Right. So what they did is like you argued the police were called, and when the police called the airline, that's when it became an action under the color of law.
Right.
Well, instead of basically what the judge did is like, police be damned. Police were called. We don't care. It was a violation of this. No. You were crossing again. That's a violation of the separation of powers. You're crossing the river, but you can't have both sides of the bank at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's another. So I am in my appeal. I'm focused on, by and large, on the three claims: the first, second, and the fourth one.
Good.
The hostile work environment, I am taken care of by a second lawsuit.
Good.
And the second lawsuit is a violation of a material breach of violation of the contract that I have with the airline.
Yeah. I saw that. I was able to pull up your suits because I have access to Pacer. So I looked them up.
Okay. So that contract. Okay. So the lawyers for the company are gonna file a motion to dismiss.
Of course
they're gonna claim that I have already claimed national origin as a claim, in my first suit. Therefore, I'm barred from bringing the same claim. But it's not the same claim.
Yeah.
This is a material breach of contract claim.
Yeah. And
Right.
let me just touch on that real quick, because it has parallels to the case that Justice and I have going on right now.
Okay.
So what Captain is referring to, there's two doctrines, judicial doctrines that help to govern the judicial efficacy, as it's known. And what it is it's the doctrine of res judicata is the first, and the second is collateral estoppel. So what res judicata is res judicata prevents you from filing multiple lawsuits where the two parties are the same, the causes of action are the same, the issues are the same, and you're asking a different court to give you a different judgment. So the courts have adopted this policy that, hey, if this was already litigated and a court of competent jurisdiction came to a conclusion, we're not going to take up the case under this doctrine. That's what that is. So that's what they're going to argue in their motion to dismiss, that the court should dismiss it because of the res judicata.
Exactly.
Well, the second issue is collateral estoppel. What that is if you take a position on a certain issue, certain fact in other litigation, but there was either pending litigation or it was immaterial to the cause of action, that prevents you from changing that position in another suit.
Mm-hmm.
But the captain's absolutely right. You're talking about different causes of action, different issues. Neither one of those two doctrines apply. But these stupid liars are going to do it. And I'll give you a good example. We were talking before we went live. Justice and I have a court hearing tomorrow in her case, and the liar that's representing the other side filed an opposition, and he is citing that we're barred by the doctrine of res judicata. Never mind the fact that when you read the order from the federal court dismissing the other case, it has nothing to do with the causes of action in the new case or the issues we're raising in the new case. Nothing to do with it whatsoever. They just dismissed the federal causes of action that we were moving under. So completely different thing. The res judicata doesn't apply. But again, you guys got to understand that these bar members are like the captain alluded to. They take an oath to the bar. They take an oath to do what is right in the bar's eyes, and they're not going to do what is actually right. They're not going to investigate the claims that we're making against their clients. They're just going to come up with some BS response to try to get it thrown out before a jury ever even sees it.
That's right.
That's
and hope that no one challenges it.
They
Exactly.
will lie. They will lie. They will lie, and they rely heavily on people just giving up, especially pro se people.
They do. They just they're of the opinion that, hey, if we drag this out long enough, this guy or this girl, they might just go away.
Yeah.
But we have to become, and the captain said this, we have to be the thorn in their side. We have to be persistent. Now, I'm not suggesting you do anything that is unethical or illegal. I am simply stating, stick to your guns, stick to your arguments, stick to the facts. Don't let these stupid liars deviate you from what the facts and what's the real cause of your case. Find that. It's like Justice. It's like Dr. Graves says, find your winning issue and stick to it.
But this time around, also, we have evidence.
Yes.
Because we hired a private eye.
Yep. Yep. In Justice's case, we've got a different. See, and here's the thing. Guess what's you mentioned, Captain Cross, that the judge in your case, when they issued the order, they made no mention whatsoever of the police department calling the airline or anything else like that. Guess what? This stupid liar didn't mention anywhere in his opposition. Didn't mention anything about the new evidence we found. Didn't mention anything about a sworn affidavit from this private investigator who's willing to testify on our behalf. So are we just supposed to allow the court to just dismiss this willy-nilly?
Yeah.
No, we're not.
No.
And if the judge dismisses it, we're appealing this. We're not going to let this go.
And going after the judge. No one's been able to prove that they have a right to collect anything from us. Meanwhile, while they tried to harass and extort me in the process.
Yeah.
If they would have played nice, we'd still be on equal terms, but they decided they wanted to extort me under duress when the entire world was shut down. I mean, what a stupid move. So to me, I'm from New York. I'm like, oh my God, this is a thug. I never in my life experienced such unprofessional behavior. No, I'm sorry the globe is shut down, but we're not going to help you.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
So Captain, you filed your appeal. Have you gotten any word back from the appellate court?
I have not. No, I have not filed the informal brief yet.
Oh, okay. So you filed your notice of intent to appeal. Okay, got it.
Yes, I'm working on that. I have till the 24th of this month to file it.
Okay.
So I'm working on it. Did I send you some of that?
You did, and I was going to say, and I'm happy to if you want another set of eyes to read it over before you send it off or have any suggestions, I'm happy to do that for you. Love to.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I want to tell you, Captain, you're not the only one in the airline industry. I have a friend of mine. I haven't talked with her for quite some time. But there was a group of them through the, I believe it's the U.S. Freedom Flyers group. I don't know if you've heard of that group.
Yeah.
She was a flight attendant. She lives in the island state. I'll just let you guess what that one is.
Right.
She works for a different carrier than the one that you work for. But they were all saying the same thing. Is like, hey, there's got to be something we can do. There's got to be something we can do. So I praise you for what you're doing. And we're here to help you any way we can.
Yeah, he's fighting for the people.
Thanks, James. Yeah, that's the result. That's the result of what I'm doing. But what I say is I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think people need to love themselves.
Yeah.
And they really need to fight for themselves, because when they do, they are fighting for others. Because remember, under our republic, your right is inalienable, right? So, and your right, you protect that right, you're gonna beat the path, and people will follow you.
Right.
Yep, it's true.
Okay? You don't want to have the majority vote. You don't. That is absolutely not how we live, and it just can't be. It just can't be. So
no, and that's the sad reality is that is the path that the supposed leaders of this nation are trying to take us, is to the majority rules. You'll hear this all the time from elected, quote unquote, elected officials that say, well, our democracy this, our democracy that, our democracy this. And I'm like, okay, number one, you need to go back to 4th grade civics class, because we do not live in a democracy. We never have. This is a constitutional republic. There are forms of democracy built into it, but it is not a majority rules for good reason, for very good reason. So
that's right.
Captain, what can we do to help? What can we do? What can our viewers, what can our listeners do? As you know, we're on a number of different platforms. What can we do to help you?
I have been on other platforms, and a shout out was put out for any attorneys who are interested in helping to contact, get in touch with me, but nobody has. I understand that everybody has their lives, and it's very busy and hectic. I'm confident in what I'm doing.
Okay.
And persistent. So when I hear something, my ears always perk up, and I pay attention and try and understand what it means, so I can apply it to what I'm doing. And sure, I mean, if somebody has a certain angle that I could use, why not? Absolutely. I'll listen. I'll listen to any. I mean, like you just gave me, you just brought up. Although instinctively I'm doing it, but you brought up the actual law that states exactly what is going on. That describes the process. Yeah,
the full faith and credit. Absolutely. I mean, if citizens within the 5th Circuit Court of Appeal have a right to do this, then me as a citizen in the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals does as well.
And as a matter of fact, to your point, James, in my case, if you notice that the judge reversed the personal jurisdiction
Mhm.
over the senior VP of flight.
I saw that.
Okay, he reversed because I pointed out that, hey, if the court, and I found the code. It's in the case. If the court accepts video conferencing as equal to the presence of the individual, why wouldn't it accept it for this guy?
Exactly.
And he reversed. So
Yep.
I used their language, and
Mhm.
he reversed. So
Yep.
I know I'm able to reverse their thinking.
Yeah. Good.
So the argument has to be right and convincing, and that's what I'm focused on now in my appeal.
Okay.
And I don't know how much time we have, but real quick with my second lawsuit, it's pure contract.
Yeah.
The airline agreed to conduct an investigation and correct, and they didn't. If I claimed discrimination, and they didn't, and it's plain and simple. It says you will not punish. They would not punish me in any way.
Mhm.
It's
They
plain English,
retaliated. Yeah. You
but they
could also
retaliated.
you can also throw in a retaliation cause of action, and you can show that. So
Yeah.
yeah. So, Captain, here's what I would tell you is I understand you've been on other platforms. You've been seeking licensed bar members to help you. I would caution you with that. Justice and Erica know where I stand when it comes to that. They have an ulterior motive. Their motive is not to seek justice for you. Their motive is to do what's in the best interest for the organization they have sworn an oath to, which is not, unfortunately, the Constitution of the United States. It's the Bar Association of America and the Bar Association of whatever state they're in. So with that being said, I am more than willing to help you with whatever you're doing. Don't feel like you're at this alone. Don't feel like you have to do it all alone. You're a very intelligent individual. I read your complaint, and I was, albeit it's a different style, but you can tell, and that actually works well in your favor. So when you come up with your appellate brief, if you say, hey, here's my first draft, send it over to Justice, send it over to myself. You have my email. I'll be happy to read through it, find if I can find any other supporting case law. I have access to everything, Westlaw, American jurisprudence. I've got access to everything, all the cases we want to find. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you can circle your argument back to the constitutional provision that guarantees you that right, no one can argue with that. Because every single organization, either in our government or in corporations, was created under the guidance and direction of the Constitution. Without the Constitution, we don't have judges. Without the Constitution, we don't have the FAA. Without the Constitution, we don't have corporations. Now, you can argue that all you want, and you can argue that statutes this and statutes that. It's like, well, hold on a second. You need to understand something here. A statute governs the actions of the corporations and the charters that created it. So I'll give you another case. It's a good case to look at. It's called Hale v. Henkel. That was a case. I saw that
somewhere. I didn't read.
Yeah, that was a case. It was back in the late 1920s, I want to say. And basically what it came to is it's Henkel with an E, by the way. Hale versus Henkel.
Henkle.
Henkle. Yep. And so the crux is that the judge in that case said this corporation has acted outside of the laws that created it. It is doing things outside of the scope of the laws that created it. That's the gist of the case there. So when you go back and you argue these things, you can go, hey, the TSA acted outside of the authority and the laws that created it. The police department or the other individuals in the airport acted outside of their laws, and because they sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution and to guarantee every citizen's rights. They violated my right against unlawful search and seizure, against unlawful detainment, against false imprisonment, because they were acting under the guise and under the force of color of law. So there's that side of it. And then the airline has acted outside of the statutes that created it.
Mhm.
They don't have this authority. They don't have
No.
this power over one of the people.
No,
They don't.
absolutely.
They can't.
No, they don't.
So-
They don't.
So when you make those
No.
arguments that way, that's going to be, I don't care what judge is sitting there. Do you mean to tell me, Mr. Judge, that your opinion carries more water than constitutional? It says it's clear as day right there.
Right.
Any privilege that's given to one citizen in another state shall be enjoyed by all citizens in the several states. Very clear. So tell me exactly, what am I missing here?
Right.
So
I agree with you. It's this is good, Hale versus Hinkle, because I don't know if you saw the law. I have 4 lawsuits going on.
yeah.
Okay. The 4th one is against the union.
Oh, even better.
and the union supported the airline's position on face covering. What they did is they said, "Oh, we've adopted a non-opposing position." What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
That means you agree with their position.
Mm-hmm.
That means you have an agreement. Well, unions cannot have an agreement that invades public policy.
Exactly.
And unions are specific to, they can negotiate rates of pay, work rules, and working conditions, no more.
Yep.
They can't
Yep.
invade public policy. So Hale versus Hinkle basically is what you just gave me.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
exactly
Yep.
what they're doing there. Outside.
Yeah, it's the crux of that case was an investigator was trying to get, like, I think he was the bookkeeper or an accountant or something to
Okay.
open up the books of the company, but by doing so, that would have incriminated himself. So he's
Uh-huh.
like, no, I'm exercising my Fifth Amendment right against
Incrimination,
self-incrimination. Yes, and
Right.
so they took it and they I can't remember if this was a criminal case or if it was a civil case, but the judge says no, he has that right. That a citizen and a man can stand upon his constitutionally secured rights, rightfully so. So yeah, look it up. It's a great case.
I will.
But like I
wrote it
said,
down, so-
when you come up with your appellate brief, email it over to me. I'll read through it. I'll make some notes, some suggestions on, hey, have you thought about going from this angle? That's one of the reasons why I love this group that we have. I mean, it's not just myself, Justice and Erica know. We have my good friend Brandon in Louisiana who'll be on with us on Friday. I'm always calling him. As a matter of fact, he called me about 20 minutes before the show to
Okay.
tell me some really interesting, exciting news that we're going to share on Friday. I was talking with him about Justice's case. It's like, hey, do you think that this applies? This is the argument that this stupid lawyer's making. Does this apply? And he's like, heavens no. Not even close to being the same thing. So there is a group of us.
Yeah.
We're small, but there's a group of us that are
Well-
willing to help you fight this. And like I said, save your money. You don't need to hire a liar.
All we need is 3%, right?
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
So-
So we are actually getting, I've got a hard stop here coming up pretty quick. I've got some other pressing matters to attend to. I'm headed out of town on Sunday night for a couple of weeks. So, but Captain, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you sharing your story. Fascinating. I'm excited to follow your case. So your next step is to get your appellate brief written up and get it filed with the court. And you have until the 24th of this month to do so.
That is correct. And this court, again, dismissed my case against the union because I'll have to look, because he based the judge interpreted the regulation.
Mm-hmm.
You'll recognize it, 6153.
Yep.
Where the pilot is the one who makes that decision. He interpreted that as if, it's almost correct. My interpretation is almost correct. I have an idiosyncratic interpretation of the regulation. I'm like, okay, so do we have a doctor at every gate telling me how I feel before I board the airplane to
No.
operate it?
Yeah, no.
Of course not, right?
No.
So he's just out of his mind.
So in
So
essence, the judge knows your regulations better than you, an airline pilot of 38 years.
No,
Yeah.
the judge knows
He
his
thinks-
health better than him.
Yeah, he
Apparently.
wakes up in the morning. And he can tell me how I feel.
Oh,
Yes.
I thought you were
No,
saying that.
that's-
That makes a
were-
lot of sense.
That's
Makes
a
a
joke,
lot of
right?
sense.
So,
Yeah.
So if he can wake up in the morning and tell me how I feel, then I will agree that his interpretation is correct.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I have time, but I tell a story of Scott. Scott, this is a true story. Scott was one of my co-pilots, and on the descent into Phoenix, he says, "Cap, I can't breathe." This is a true story.
Yes.
I can't breathe. I don't think it's a heart attack, but I'm going to go on oxygen.
Mhm.
And he did. A few minutes later, he recovered, right? He removed himself from flying the next flight. As it turned out, it was a heavy indigestion. So a very simple breakfast that he ate too much, right?
Yeah.
Caused an indigestion and almost incapacitated him. He was that close to being incapacitated, cannot breathe. He went on oxygen. That made the flight deck from a 2-man crew to a 1-man crew. Now, all I needed was an emergency of some sort. Now we are down to 1-man crew dealing with an emergency, 2 emergencies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this guy wants to tell me, this judge wants to tell me that my interpretation of the rule is idiosyncratic.
Yeah.
That I have some idiosyncrasy that you know.
Yeah, they love to throw. My favorite thing is when they throw in their arguments that your facts have no basis in law or have no merit in law. I love they just like, to me it's just fancy terms. Fancy words. It's like, okay, so you say I have no merit or no basis in law. Do explain. I would love to hear this.
And that's exactly what I told this judge. And I'm not shy anymore. I'm not backing.
Good.
I'm not backing off. I'm being respectful.
Yeah,
but I'm being
as you
forceful.
should. But you need to be forceful. Say, Your Honor, respectfully, I disagree. Please enlighten me exactly.
That's right.
How I interpreted this law or this regulation as it relates to my primary duties as a pilot. Please enlighten me how I misinterpret this.
And here's a good one for you now. I don't know how I'm going to spin this one or how I'm going to use it. The union had an election, a new president who ran on mandate opposition.
Mm-hmm.
He himself was injured when he was in the military from anthrax, right? And took him 6 months to recover from being paralyzed from the waist down. So he ran his campaign against any mandates, right? So he was elected by the majority of the pilots, but yet the lawyers in the union still hold on to the position that they had before, which is a non-opposition position to the company policy. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a conflict within the union. How is the union functioning when you have a president who opposes that and the lawyers say, oh no, the union supports that?
Yeah. Yeah, like we were talking about before we went live, this is upside down world. I mean, we're trying to figure out which is up and what's down. And
exactly, to your point.
You know what? I'll close it out and I'll end it with this, you guys. In a few episodes from now, we're going to talk about nullification. We're going to talk about what happens. What can you do if a law is passed that violates either the Constitution or violates your rights of conscience? Like if you just deep down, that just doesn't feel right, you have a God-given right to ignore that. Matter of fact, God has come out and said that you are to forsake anything that has the appearance of evil. So forsake means to put off or to get away from. So if you find anything like I know the captain did, like I did myself, just as the same way, Eric is the same way. When all of this crap hit the fan in 2020 and they started doing these things, he's like, deep down, I was like, wait a minute, this just doesn't feel right. Something doesn't make sense here. What am I missing? You're telling me I need to do this. What am I missing? That's where nullification comes in. And there has been a number of times in our nation's history where brave individuals have openly violated existing law and suffered the consequences. I'll give you one example, and then we got to close it out. Rosa Parks.
Mm-hmm.
Rosa Parks. There was a law in the books that if you were of a certain skin color, you had to ride in the back of the bus. And she said, no, I'm not doing that. So she suffered the consequences because of it. However, our nation was forever changed in a better way because of what she did. So absolutely, this is our duty as Americans. This is our duty as men and women and children of God, is to stand up like the captain is doing. This doesn't, no. the lives of 200 people plus depend on me. And if I, in any way, shape, or form, if I'm impaired in any way, shape, or form, I am not fit for duty, and I will make that decision because I cannot put those lives at risk. I won't do it. But you know what? You've got corporations, you've got government agencies that make the argument of a compelling governmental interest, which, by the way, I have major issues with. I don't give a rat's rear end about your governmental compelling interest. What about my compelling constitutionally secured right interest?
They don't care, James.
They don't.
They don't care.
They
And
don't.
James, if you don't mind me interrupting you, that rule 6153 is misunderstood by most pilots.
Yeah.
That rule is not a sick call rule. It is a forward-looking rule. In other words, if you want to operate an aircraft in 15 hours, you better not do something that's going to affect your health.
Yeah. Yep.
You see what I mean?
If your actions the night before, if you're throwing back too many shots at the bar the night before, and if that's going to affect your ability to operate this,
exactly right. The FAA has identified certain activities and or drugs that a pilot may not do or use prior to operating an aircraft. But how about all the other things that have not been identified?
Yeah.
Kind of like the Ninth Amendment. You can't cover everything, right? So it is up to the pilot to make that decision, and it is forward looking. So they all are trying to tell me that it is a sick call. Oh, if you don't feel good, that's when you don't operate an aircraft. No. You plan ahead. You don't just get better when you go to operate an aircraft. You plan ahead, and you're ready to operate when you are there at the aircraft to operate and healthy.
Yeah.
And that's the new definition, if you will. That is the real definition of what the rule is about.
Good.
Such a
Well,
great-
Captain, thank you again. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. And like I said, my door's open. I'd love to help you if I can. So
I will. I know you're knowledgeable, and everybody else. I'm sure everybody else is knowledgeable, and everybody can contribute to what I'm doing. And like I said,
I'm sure it doesn't. I'm sure it doesn't hurt to have a commercial airline pilot as a friend. I'm just going to say that. So,
well, I do have my private airplanes too. So
he started his own business, by the way. If you're in what area? You're in Texas, right?
And Phoenix,
Arizona. So if you want to learn to fly and you're in Phoenix, let us know and we'll connect you with his new business. Right? Teaching people.
Yes. Right now, I have started what's called a time building business for pilots who want to build more multi-engine time so they can get on with a major airline or
get more hours.
Yeah, get more hours. Or if they want to become a multi-engine instructors, then we can get them squared away.
Love it. All right, you guys, we're going to wrap this session up. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. Justice, Erica, anything you guys want to say before we close it out?
Erica's muted. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
Erica is muted.
No, she's on now.
I'll do like the producer stuff, which is we are now also on because Facebook doesn't like us. They won't let us live stream anymore. They don't want us to teach people how to protect themselves. But so we pulled up some accounts on Odyssey and Twitch, and we're live streaming over there as well as the website. So there's a bunch of places. You'll always find it in the Telegram chat. I post it before we go on live. And if you need help or have any questions, again, reach out in the Telegram chat. And I have to say, Captain Cross, it was such a great insight to the aviation industry through the eyes of a pilot.
Yeah.
Today. And then last week, he was on our show with Crash and I, because he and Crash are both pilots, and that's how we met and started. But it's such a great thing to hear somebody that wants to stand up for people, but just the lives that you carry in your hands, you know, and how you so want to protect the people. It's just very admirable what you're doing, and the insight to the industries. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And now I've been saying lately that my mission was to bring people together using airplanes. I think my mission has changed. Now I bring people together using my words and my actions
Yep.
Awesome.
and bringing families together. So that's important. That's really important to me. So
Yep. Erica, anything else you want to say before we close it out?
Well, I just identified with your Captain Cross, your desire to not be able to silence that still small voice that says, no, not today. This is the line that I'm drawing today and forever. And like the more of us who are doing that, like who cares what comes down the way after that point, you know?
Yeah.
You have to take your stands everywhere you can in every way that you can. And we can't just think about prying people out of the darkness because they're still asleep and they don't know. They're on their journey too. You know, you don't have to understand what kind of darkness you're in to be drawn to the light. And so we just need to keep being the light, you know? And so good on you. I'm glad you were in a dark industry as well. It sounds like with the unions and how everybody took a hive mind and went in one direction. I was too. We all like, it's like, there's just a few of us and we seem to be assembling. So that's really
we are.
Yeah,
we are.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
I've always operated on the sidelines. I've always thought outside the box. I never wanted to join any organization for some reason. I've always been, I thought on my own. I did not like being part of a group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very individual. Yeah.
Good for you.
For me.
Good.
We're going to pray for Erica. Everybody out there, pray for Erica, and the people in her area are getting pummeled with tornadoes. So we'll keep them in your prayers.
Yes. All right, you guys, thanks so much. Real quick before I hit the end button here, do us all a big favor. I never ask for anything of anyone, but I will ask of you this: is please subscribe to our channels. Please like these shows as we go out. That helps to get more people involved, helps to get the word out to more people. You guys know I don't do what I do for money. I'm not doing this for any kind of money. I'm doing this to get the word out so that my fellow brothers and sisters in this great country that I love can stand up and teach their children and their children's children the rights that we have that have been lost through the ages through our horrible education system. So help us out. Like our channel, subscribe to our channel, like our podcast, like our videos. That really helps us to get where we need to go. So, so with that, you guys,
very good.
Everybody take care. We will talk to you. Our next broadcast will be on Friday. We have a guest again, Brandon, the Big Sib. It's the Big Sib this time. He's going to join. He's got some really good information to share. We've got some case updates. I'll give you guys an update on how our hearing goes tomorrow. With justice. So until then, you guys take care. God bless you all. We will talk to you on Friday.
All right. Go get them tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Justice.
Pray for us.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. We'll see you.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.